She sat in the rain, soaked, silent, forgotten. A crippled woman in a wheelchair, holding 2 crying babies to her chest. People rushed past. Umbrellas flipping, cars honking. But no one stopped. No one saw her. Until one man, in a black SUV, told his driver to reverse. That moment didn't just change her life. It changed everything. This is the story of Anita, and how one simple act of kindness turned a beggar into a beacon of hope. The rain came without warning. Heavy drops pounded rooftops, car windows, and the heads of people rushing to get home. Horns blared, umbrellas flipped inside out. Everyone was trying to escape the storm. Everyone, except her. She sat still on an old wheelchair, pushed halfway onto the pavement. Her dress clung to her body, soaked through. Her hair, once beautiful and long, was now wet and stuck to her face. She held 2 babies tightly against her chest. Twins, no more than a few months old, wrapped in one thin piece of Ankara cloth. They were crying, but quietly, weakly, like they had cried too many times before. In front of her, resting on her legs, was a soggy piece of cardboard. She had written on it with charcoal, "Please help. My babies are hungry." People passed her, fast, focused, cold. Some gave her a quick glance and looked away. Some hissed, some whispered, "God help her," but kept walking. Nobody stopped. Nobody really saw her. Not the girl, not the pain, not the story behind the wheelchair. Until a black SUV drove past. It was the kind of car that made people stop and stare. Big, shiny, bulletproof. The driver had both hands on the wheel. The man in the back seat barely noticed the world outside. He was reading messages, checking business figures, thinking about his meeting. Mr. Dapo Williams, one of the most successful men in the country. Tech billionaire, speaker, investor, power. He had passed her. 3 blocks away, his driver asked, "Sir, should I take the bridge or the express?" Dapo didn't answer. He just froze. He had seen something. No, felt something. A woman, in the rain, with babies, in a wheelchair, and the look in her eyes. He said one word. "Reverse." "Sir?" I said reverse. "Go back now." The driver turned the car around, confused. But he didn't ask questions. They returned slowly, watching through the rain-smeared glass. And there she was, still sitting in the same spot, still holding her babies, still ignored by the world. Dapo rolled down his window. Rain splashed into the car. He leaned out gently. "Madam, what happened to you?" The woman looked up. Their eyes met. And in that one moment, everything changed. Not because he was a billionaire, not because she was begging, but because he saw her, really saw her, and soon the world would too. Before the wheelchair, before people passed her like she didn't exist. Anita was the voice of Sunday morning. She didn't have riches, but she had something that made people stop and listen. Her voice, soft when needed, strong when it rose, carried through the church like a warm wind. It made old women cry and young girls believe. She wasn't just singing. She was pouring her heart into every word. Even people who arrived late would whisper, "Ah, we missed Anita's ministration. That girl carries grace." She lived simply, working as a cleaner and house help in a wealthy family's home. But even when her hands smelled of detergent and her back ached from scrubbing floors, Anita smiled. Every Sunday she would give a testimony. "Praise the Lord," she would say, lifting the microphone with 2 hands. "Hallelujah," the church would answer. "I just want to thank God," she'd continue. "Last week I had only 500 naira left and someone gave me food. My God provides, even in small ways." People clapped. Some shouted, "Amen." Others whispered to each other. Her faith is strong. She was known not for what she had, but for the joy she carried in spite of what she lacked. Then came Brother Vincent, a tall, gentle church brother, who always wore well-ironed shirts and knew his Bible like the back of his hand. He started sitting close to her during Bible study. Sometimes he walked her home after choir practice. One evening after rehearsal, he said, "Anita, I've been praying. I believe you are my wife." Anita's heart skipped. No one had ever spoken to her like that before, especially not a man from church, a man with vision, with faith, with fire. He fasted with her. He prayed with her. He told her that God showed her to him in a dream. The church approved. The pastor blessed them. The women tied headscarves and danced at their small wedding held in the church's side hall. Anita wore a borrowed gown. Vincent held her hand tightly. She whispered, "Thank you, Lord," as they said their vows. Later, when she became pregnant, Vincent had lifted her and spun her around. "Twins! Double blessings!" he shouted, laughing. They were planning for a future full of praise. But what Anita didn't know was that some men pray with you until life tests the prayer. And when the fire gets hot, not every man stays. Anita's belly grew fast. The doctor confirmed it again. Twins. 2 heartbeats. 2 lives. Vincent was overjoyed. "We prayed for one, and God gave us 2, he said, tears in his eyes. "This is proof that we are chosen." Anita smiled. She rubbed her belly each night, singing softly to her unborn daughters. They started planning names, Hope and Joy, because even in struggle, Anita believed their home was blessed. Vincent became distant as the pregnancy moved into the 3rd trimester. He said he was busy, that he needed to work extra hours, that the babies needed money. He stopped praying with her. He came home late. Some nights he didn't come home at all. Anita didn't complain. She just held her belly and prayed. "Lord, help him. Give him strength. Bring him closer again." But on the night her water broke, Vincent rushed her to the hospital. He looked scared, but he still kissed her forehead and whispered, "You're strong. I'm right here." The labor was long and painful. Anita screamed. She bled. The twins arrived crying, but something was wrong. There had been complications. The pressure during delivery had damaged her spine. Her legs no longer moved. The doctor called her husband aside and gently explained, "Her spine is injured. She may never walk again." That night, while Anita was still unconscious, he told the nurses, "I'm going to buy baby food." He never came back. When Anita woke up the next morning, a nurse sat beside her. "Your babies are healthy," she said softly. "But your legs, you may not walk again." Anita's voice trembled. "Where is my husband?" The nurse looked away. Later, a hospital cleaner who knew him spoke quietly. "He packed all his things and left. Said he couldn't live with a cripple," told the nurse. "Let God help her." Anita lay there in silence. No screaming, no tears, just silence. She looked at her twin girls. Tiny, beautiful, full of life. She pulled them close. "I can't walk," she whispered. "But I can love, and I can fight." That night, as the babies cried and her body burned with pain, Anita prayed the hardest prayer of her life. God, if you're still there, don't let me die like this. Even if I have to crawl, I'll protect my children." Anita stayed in the hospital for days after the delivery. Her babies, Hope and Joy, were healthy but small. They cried a lot, hungry, confused by the world they had just entered. Anita couldn't stand to rock them. She couldn't walk to the nurses. She couldn't even go to the bathroom without help. All she could do was pray and start making calls. One by one, she dialed every number in her phone, hoping someone, anyone, would come to her aid. She called church members. No answer. She texted the pastor's wife. No reply. She called Vincent's cousin, the one who danced at their wedding. Switched off. She tried the church group chat. She wrote, "Please, I need help. I can't walk. I just had twins. I have no food. No money, no one." They read it. Blue ticks. No replies. She stared at the screen, feeling something heavier than the pain in her back. Abandonment. The same people who said, "God is in this marriage," were now acting like they never knew her. Hours turned into days. The hospital staff grew impatient. The bills had increased. One nurse whispered, "They may discharge her without pay. Just leave her at the gate." Anita began to cry silently in the night, not from pain, not even from hunger, but because she finally understood what it meant to be truly alone. Then she remembered one name, Ada, her childhood friend, the one who braided her hair back in secondary school. They hadn't spoken in a while, but Ada had a good heart. She called. The phone rang once. Twice! Then a voice. "Hello?" Anita burst into tears. "Ada, it's me. Anita." "Anita?" The shock in her voice was loud. "Where are you?" "What happened?" Through broken sobs, Anita told her everything. The marriage, the twins, the betrayal. The hospital, the legs. Ada didn't even wait for her to finish. "I'm coming," she said. "Don't cry again. You're not alone." 2 hours later, Ada appeared. Hair untidy, wrapper loose, face full of concern. She brought food, diapers, and a small bag. She paid a part of the bill. She argued with the matron. She helped pack Anita's things. She carried the babies and wheeled Anita out of the hospital herself. They arrived at Ada's one-room apartment, tight and stuffy but warm. Anita looked around, tears falling again. This time from relief. There was no mattress for her, no baby cot. But there was kindness. And sometimes, kindness is the only bed soft enough to rest a broken heart. Ada tried her best. She gave Anita a mattress to sleep on, even though it was the only one she had. She shared her food, warmed water for the babies, and took time off her small hair braiding business to help care for the twins. The room was tight. 2 adults, 2 babies, and a wheelchair. But for the first time since Vincent left, Anita felt human again. Each day, Ada would say, "Don't worry, things will get better." But behind her smile, she was struggling too. Her rent was due. Her customers were few. The cost of baby food and diapers was rising. Some nights, Ada went to bed hungry just to feed Anita and the babies. Anita noticed. She stopped asking for anything. She tried to help, washing bottles with one hand, rocking the twins in her lap, singing lullabies softly. But the pressure was building. Then one morning, as Ada returned from a client's house, she stood at the door for a long time. She didn't come in right away. Anita looked up from the mattress, baby Joy resting on her lap, while Hope slept beside her. "Ada?" she asked. Ada came in slowly. She dropped her handbag and sat down, not speaking. Then she whispered the words Anita had been dreading. "I can't do this anymore." Anita felt her chest tighten. "I've tried. God knows I've tried. But I'm sinking, Anita. I haven't paid rent. I'm behind on my business orders. You and the babies." Her voice cracked. "You need more than I can give. You need help, real help. I'm just one person." Anita blinked fast to hold back her tears. She didn't get angry. She didn't blame her. Instead, she whispered, "Thank you for keeping us this long. If this is the end, I understand." The next morning, Anita dressed the twins in the only clean clothes they had left. She wrapped them in Ankara cloth. Her legs still didn't move, but her arms were strong. She tied the babies to her chest, strapped a ragged handbag to the back of her wheelchair, and rolled herself out the door, into the street. She didn't know where she was going. She had no plan, no food, no money, only faith. She found a junction, busy, crowded, people with suits, people with phones, cars speeding past. She sat there, under the hot sun, cardboard in hand, babies asleep on her chest. Her sign read, "Please help. My babies are hungry." The day passed. The sun turned to clouds. But Anita didn't move, because this time, she had nothing left to run to. The clouds turned black, the kind of black that warned even the fearless to run for shelter. And when the first drop fell, it came like a tear from heaven. Big, heavy, sad. Then the sky broke open. The rain hit the street in angry waves. Cars turned on their wipers. People dashed for cover. Under shops, under trees, under anything with a roof. But Anita didn't move. She sat there soaked to the skin, holding her babies close. Her arms trembled. Her eyes were blurry. The cardboard sign on her lap was melting away, the words now just a smear of wet charcoal. But she couldn't leave. She had nowhere to go, nowhere dry, nowhere safe. She whispered into the baby's ears, "Just hold on, my loves. Help will come." That's when the black SUV appeared. Smooth, silent, powerful. The kind of car that didn't stop for red lights, let alone beggars. Inside the back seat sat Dapo Williams. He was dressed in a clean blue suit, eyes fixed on his phone, scrolling through a company report. He was on his way to a board meeting that could change the future of his business empire. He wasn't looking for anything or anyone, but as his car approached the junction, something flickered at the corner of his eye. A woman, soaked, still, with 2 babies strapped to her chest, in a wheelchair, in the rain. The car passed her. He didn't say a word, but something in his chest tightened, a feeling he hadn't felt in years, like his heart was being tugged backward. His hand dropped the phone. He sat forward. "Stop the car. Sir? The driver asked, confused. Stop, reverse, go back. The driver obeyed, slowly backing up the SUV, splashing through puddles, horns blaring behind them. People stared. Rich men didn't reverse for beggars. But Dapo wasn't listening to logic. He rolled down his window. Rain blew in, but he didn't care. He looked at her. She didn't look back at first. Her head was bowed. Her babies whimpered softly. Madam, he said gently. What happened to you? Anita slowly raised her face. Their eyes met, and in that moment, time stood still. He didn't see a crippled woman. He saw a mother, a fighter, a story that hadn't ended yet, and something inside him whispered, Don't drive away from this one. The rain beat hard on the roof of the SUV. Thunder rolled in the distance. But inside the car, everything went quiet. Dapo Williams, billionaire, CEO, man of numbers and headlines, sat staring into the eyes of a woman whose name he didn't yet know, but whose pain he felt in his chest like it was his own. She looked tired, not just physically. Her spirit looked tired. Her eyes held the kind of silence that screamed louder than words. The babies strapped to her chest moved slightly. One coughed. The other whimpered. Anita wiped their faces with her scarf, hands shaking, lips pale. Dapo leaned out the window a little more. Madam, can I help you? Anita hesitated. She had heard those words before. From people who promised and disappeared. From strangers who dropped 200 naira and sped off. From church members who told her to keep praying. She didn't know who this man was. But she saw something different in his eyes. She nodded. I just need help to feed them, she whispered. They haven't eaten since yesterday. Dapo looked at the babies. He could see their ribs pressing against the cloth. He could see how thin Anita's arms were. This wasn't acting. This wasn't a scam. This was real hunger, real suffering, real pain. He opened the door. Please, he said to her softly. Let me take you and the baby somewhere safe. Anita stared at him, unsure. I'm not here to judge you. I can't leave you like this. She nodded again, barely able to speak. Dapo turned to his driver. Open the back seat, gently. He got out, into the rain. His Italian shoes sank into the mud. His suit got soaked. His bodyguards looked alarmed, but Dapo didn't care. He walked up to Anita and carefully reached out his arms. Let me carry them, he said. I'll carry you next. Anita was frozen. This man, this powerful, wealthy man, was now kneeling in front of her, gently lifting her babies into his arms like they were gold. She sobbed quietly. Her hands trembled as she let go. The driver came forward and helped her into the car, wrapping her with a blanket from the back seat. As the door closed behind her for the first time in a long time, Anita leaned back and exhaled, not because her problems were over, but because someone finally saw her worth. The SUV moved through the city like a silent promise. Anita sat in the back seat, soaked, speechless, clutching her babies as they slept against her chest. Her hands still trembled, not from cold but from disbelief. In the front, Dapo Williams gave quiet instructions to his assistant over the phone. Clear my evening. Cancel the board meeting. I'll explain later. They pulled into a large, quiet estate. High walls, iron gates, flowers blooming in the rain. A white mansion stood at the center. Tall, clean, almost glowing under the stormy sky. Anita had never seen anything like it, not even from the outside. The gate opened without sound. The car drove into a paved compound where staff rushed forward holding umbrellas. Dapo stepped out first, the rain still falling, but now it didn't touch him. His umbrella shielded his head, but his eyes remained fixed on Anita. The car door opened. Come, he said gently. You're safe now. The housemaids helped Anita out of the SUV. One of them gasped quietly when she saw the babies, but quickly turned it into a warm smile. They carried Anita in, still seated in her wheelchair, through a marble hallway into a guest room that looked more luxurious than anything Anita had ever imagined. White curtains, a soft bed, a baby cot already being arranged. Within minutes, a private doctor arrived. Not just a regular one. A gentle woman with soft hands and sharp eyes. She examined Anita carefully, took her blood pressure, checked her spine, listened to her heartbeat. Then the doctor turned to Dapo. She's very weak, malnourished, dehydrated, completely worn out, she said softly. But with rest, good food, and the right care, she can recover. Dapo looked at her closely. And her legs? She'll need surgery and physical therapy. The doctor replied. It won't be easy, but yes, she can walk again. Dapo nodded once. Do it. Give her everything she needs. What about the babies? They're weak, but they'll be okay, the doctor said. They just need food, warmth, and love. After the doctor left the room, it was quiet. Then Anita finally spoke. Why? She asked, her voice rough and shaky. Why are you helping me? You don't even know me. Dapo looked at her. His eyes were deep, full of things he didn't say. Because I know what it feels like to be invisible, he said. Anita began to cry, not loudly. Just soft, quiet tears, like the rain that led her here. For the first time in months, she wasn't begging. She wasn't crawling. She wasn't alone. She was safe, at least for now. And her healing had finally begun. The first few days were like a dream. Anita slept on a real mattress. Not the floor. A mattress with soft sheets and pillows that smelled of lavender. Her babies, Hope and Joy, finally had warm clothes, milk bottles, and clean diapers. For the first time, they didn't cry from hunger. But the dream came with a cost. Healing hurts. Every morning a physiotherapist came to work with her legs. The first time she tried to move her left foot, Anita screamed in pain. I can't do it, she whispered, tears flowing down her face. Yes, you can, the therapist replied calmly. You survived the storm. Don't stop now. Every session felt like a war between her body and her spirit. Her muscles refused to cooperate. Her legs felt like they belonged to someone else. But she kept showing up, because her twins were watching, and she had promised them. They would never crawl like she had to. Dapo visited her every evening, not with grand speeches or money talk, but with quiet presence. He brought her books to read. He asked how the babies were doing. Sometimes he just sat with her in silence. One evening, Anita asked him, Why do you keep coming? You've already done more than anyone ever has. Dapo smiled, looking at Hope asleep in the cot. Because you remind me that strength doesn't always look like muscles. Sometimes it looks like a woman, in a wheelchair, refusing to give up. Anita looked at him. Really looked at him. For the first time. Not as a billionaire, but as a man who had known suffering, too. From that day, her motivation grew. She pushed harder during therapy. She asked for longer sessions. She started learning how to hold herself up on a walker. Each baby step was a victory. Each tear, a price for freedom. Each bruise, a mark of rising again. By the third week, she could stand with support. And one morning, as sunlight poured through the guest room window, Anita held the walker, took a shaky breath, and took her first unassisted step. The nurse clapped. The babies giggled, and Anita dropped into the chair, crying, not from pain, but from joy. She had walked, not far, but far enough to know the journey back had truly begun. The rain had stopped. The skies were clear now, but trouble doesn't always come with thunder. It was a quiet Thursday morning when the gateman buzzed in. There's a man at the gate, he told Dapo's house manager. He says he's Anita's husband. The staff froze, not because the name meant anything to them, but because of the look on Anita's face when they told her. His name is Vincent, the man added quietly. Anita's heart stopped. Vincent? She hadn't heard that name in months. Not since the hospital. Not since he left her and the twins, walking away without a word, leaving behind only a bag of baby clothes and a life full of broken dreams. What does he want? Anita asked, her voice low but firm. He says he wants to see you, to explain. For a moment the room was silent. Then Anita did something no one expected. She stood up. No wheelchair. No walker. Just her legs. Wobbly, but hers. Tell him. I'll come to the gate. Outside, under the large canopy at the front entrance, Vincent stood nervously. He didn't look like the man she remembered. His shirt was stained. His eyes were bloodshot. He looked older, thinner, broken. When he saw her, walking slowly toward him, he gasped. You're walking? He whispered. I am, Anita replied. What do you want? Vincent dropped to his knees. Anita, I was a fool. I let fear and shame destroy me. I remarried, thinking I could move on. But the woman I married, she took everything. The car, She left me with nothing. Anita said nothing. I've lost everything, Anita. Vincent cried. No children. No love. Nothing. I came to beg you to forgive me. Maybe we can start again. Anita slowly raised her hand. I begged you once, she said quietly. Lying in that hospital bed, I called you many times, but you didn't answer. I even sent a voice note begging, but you never replied. Your daughters were crying beside me. She paused, her voice trembling. But you didn't just walk away from me. You walked away from them, too. She turned and looked toward the house. From the window, Dapo watched. Quiet. Respectful. You see that man in there? She continued. He didn't run when he saw my scars. He stayed. He carried me when I couldn't stand. Loved my children when I had nothing. Vincent bowed his head in shame. I don't hate you, Anita said. But I'm not yours anymore. You gave up that right when you gave up on us. She turned to walk away, each step a statement of strength. Vincent remained on his knees, watching the woman he once thought was weak walk away, stronger than ever. As Anita stepped back into the house, Dapo met her at the door. You okay? He asked. She nodded. I finally closed the chapter, she whispered. And just like that, the past lost its grip. A few years later, it all began with a simple question from Hope. She was holding Dapo's hand, playing with his wristwatch. Uncle Dapo, she said with a curious tilt of her head. Are you my daddy now? Dapo looked at Anita. The room fell quiet. Anita gently pulled Hope into her arms, smiling. Why do you ask that, baby? Because he gives me milk. He reads to me. He's nice to Mommy. Daddies do that, right? Dapo's heart clenched. He had built companies from the ground up, closed billion-dollar deals, sat at the table with kings. But nothing had ever hit him harder than that small, innocent question. That night, Dapo couldn't sleep. He walked through the hallway of his house, deep in thought. Since he lost his wife, the love of his life, to a terminal illness, he had been alone. He never planned to marry again. He just focused on his work and building his empire. Then he quietly opened the door to the guest room, where Anita was sleeping with the girls. They were all fast asleep, curled up together like pieces of a puzzle that finally fit. And in that quiet moment, Dapo felt it. It wasn't just love. It was purpose. It was healing. It was home. 2 days later, he invited Anita and the twins to a quiet dinner on the rooftop of a private garden. The city lights sparkled below, and fairy lights danced above them. The air smelled like jasmine and new beginnings. Anita wore a simple yellow dress, her hair in soft braids. Her limp had improved. She no longer needed support. You look beautiful, Dapo said, handing her a flower. She blushed. This is too much, Dapo. Why are we doing all this? He smiled. For gratitude, he said, and for one question. As soft violin music played in the background, Dapo knelt on one knee. Anita gasped. The twins clapped, thinking it was a game. But Dapo's voice was steady, emotional. Anita, I met you in the rain, broken but not defeated. I've watched you fight your way back, step by painful step. I don't just want to help you anymore. I want to build with you, love you, raise your girls as mine. Will you marry me? Anita's hand flew to her mouth. Tears spilled down her cheeks, not because she was weak, but because this was the miracle she never saw coming. Yes, she whispered. Yes, Dapo. 1,000 times yes. Hope and joy clapped again, this time understanding more than anyone realized. That night, under the stars, the crawling woman became a bride-to-be. And the man who once drove past her in the rain, he had finally found the treasure he didn't know he was searching for. They didn't want a grand wedding. Anita said it simply. We've seen enough noise in life. Let this be peaceful. Let it be sacred. And so, under the soft shade of a giant mango tree behind Dapo's family compound, with close friends and a few elders present, Anita and Dapo exchanged vows. There were no limousines or celebrity guests, no fireworks, no drama. But there was love, real, raw, and deep. Hope and joy stood beside their mother, dressed in tiny white gowns that matched hers. Dapo had tears in his eyes the moment he saw them walk down the aisle holding her hands. The man who once believed money could solve every problem now stood trembling, not from fear, but from gratitude. He was marrying a woman who had survived fire and come out gold. The officiating pastor asked him to say his vows. He looked at Anita, her skin glowing in the late afternoon sun, her strength more beautiful than any designer gown. "I saw you that day in the rain," he began, voice steady, "and something in me refused to drive away. I know now. It was God stopping me. Anita, you've taught me the meaning of strength, the weight of sacrifice and the power of forgiveness. I vow to be your partner in pain, your warrior in storms, and your joy in every new day." Anita's voice trembled as she replied, "I came to your world crawling. I had nothing, but you gave me dignity, and with it you gave me life. You loved me when I was broken. You loved my children like they were your own. I vowed to walk beside you, not as a shadow, but as a partner, a mother, a woman who has found healing in your love." The crowd wept. Even the clouds seemed to pause. When they kissed, it was not the kiss of fairy tales. It was a kiss of redemption, of journeys that had taken different routes and finally met in the middle of grace. After the ceremony, the women from the Trinity Foundation surprised them with a framed photo, a picture of Anita in the rain. On that day she was begging, and next to it a photo from today's wedding. Same woman, same twins, but a different ending. Everyone who saw it cried. Hope and joy danced around their parents, singing songs they'd learned at the foundation. Later that night, Dapo carried Anita gently into their new home. This was no mansion. This was family. This was forever. The sky was painted gold that morning. Inside a brand new multi-purpose center, hundreds of women gathered, some on crutches, some holding babies, many with scars that life had carved into them. But all of them had one thing in common. They had been forgotten. Until now, the building was named the Anita Grace Center, and today it was officially opening. A school, a shelter, a clinic, and a business training hub, all under one roof. Anita stood on the stage, no longer needing a wheelchair, no longer hidden behind pain. She wore a deep green gown and walked with grace, every limp in her step a testimony to the strength that got her here. Beside her stood Dapo, proudly holding hope and joy, now 5 years old, bright-eyed and full of life. They wore matching dresses, and on their necks hung pendants, shaped like tiny hearts, the symbol of the foundation their mother had built. As the cameras flashed and the media gathered, Anita stepped forward to speak. Her voice was calm, but every word struck deep. 5 years ago, I was begging on the roadside in the rain. I had nothing but 2 babies and a broken body. I thought life had ended for me. But someone stopped. One man saw me not as a nuisance, but as a human being. He gave me a second chance, and with that chance, I have found purpose. Today I stand not as a victim, but as a victor. This center is not just my dream. It is yours. For every woman who has crawled through life with no help, for every mother who has begged to feed her child, this place is yours. The hall erupted in cheers and tears. Behind the stage, a man stood in shadows. It was her ex-husband. He looked worn. Life had drained him, stripped away his pride. A bottle hung loosely in his hand. He smelled of alcohol. His steps were unsteady, but he came anyway. He came for one reason: forgiveness. Anita saw him from a distance. Their eyes met, and without anger, without fear, she walked toward him, calm and steady. "I came to say I'm sorry," he mumbled, not quite meeting her eyes. Anita stood tall, her voice firm but kind. "I forgive you," she said. "Not for your sake, but for mine. My life has moved on. You were only a chapter, not my ending." He fell to his knees, overcome with shame. But Anita didn't linger in the past. She gave him one last look, a look filled with grace, then turned and walked back to her family, whole, free, and finally at peace. Later that evening, as the sun set behind the city, Anita sat on her balcony beside Dapo. Hope and joy were inside, coloring drawings of the center. "Do you ever think about that day?" Dapo asked. Anita nodded. The rain, the wheelchair, the hunger. "It feels like another life." He took her hand. "And this life?" he asked. She smiled. "This is the one God meant for me all along." Above them, stars began to glow, and below, the city pulsed with life. But somewhere in the heart of it all, one woman who once crawled in the rain now stood tall, stronger than ever. A mother, a leader, a light. The crawling woman had risen, and she would never fall again. The end. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Folk Tales by Olivia, because no condition is permanent, and sometimes the rain brings more than sorrow. It brings destiny.